only to find himself ambushed by a host determined to tear him down on live television. The tension in the studio was palpable from the moment Johnny Depp walked onto the View set, and what unfolded next would leave audiences stunned and social media exploding with reactions. Before we dive into this incredible showdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your thoughts on celebrity interviews gone wrong. The morning started like any other on The View, with the co-hosts settling into their chairs as the cameras rolled. Joy Behar sat with her signature smirk, shuffling through her notes with an almost predatory gleam in her eyes. She had been waiting for this moment, this opportunity to corner Johnny Depp during what was supposed to be a promotional interview for his latest film project. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incredibly talented Johnny Depp, Whoopi Goldberg announced as the audience erupted in applause. Depp walked out with his characteristic swagger, dressed in his usual eclectic style, a slight smile playing on his lips as he waved to the cheering crowd. "Johnny, welcome to The View," Whoopi said warmly as he took his seat. "We're so excited to have you here today. Thank you for having me," Depp replied in his soft, distinctive voice. "Always a pleasure to be here with you ladies." But Joy Behar was already leaning forward, her eyes narrowed with barely concealed hostility. "Johnny, before we talk about your new project, I think our audience deserves to know about the real Johnny Depp. Don't you think?" The other co-hosts exchanged glances, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Sunani host looked uncomfortable while Sarah Haynes fidgeted with her cards. Even Whoopi seemed caught off guard by Joy's aggressive opening. "I'm not sure what you mean by that, Joy," Depp responded calmly, though his jaw tightened slightly. "I'm here to discuss my work." Joy let out a harsh laugh. "Oh, come on, Johnny. Your work. Let's be honest about what your real work has been lately. Making headlines for all the wrong reasons, treating people poorly, and frankly, I think our viewers deserve better than the sanitized version you're trying to sell." The studio fell silent except for the soft hum of cameras. Depp's demeanor shifted perceptibly, his relaxed posture becoming more guarded. "Joy, I came here in good faith to have a conversation about my film. If you want to discuss my personal life, perhaps we should do that off camera." "No, no, no," Joy waved her hand dismissively. "This is exactly where we should discuss it. You've spent years hiding behind your characters, but what about the real Johnny Depp, the one who has caused so much pain and controversy?" Whoopi attempted to intervene. "Joy, maybe we should." "No, Whoopi," Joy cut her off sharply. "I've been watching this man get praised and celebrated while real victims suffer in silence. Someone needs to hold him accountable. And if that someone has to be me, then so be it." Depp's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "Victims? What victims are you referring to, Joy? Because I think you might want to be very careful about the accusations you're making on live television." "Oh, I'll be as careful as I need to be," Joy shot back. "But I won't be silenced by your lawyers or your publicists or your fans. The truth needs to come out, and I'm going to make sure it does." The tension was now suffocating. Camera operators were getting closer, sensing that something explosive was about to happen. The other co-hosts looked like deer caught in headlights, unsure whether to jump in or let the confrontation play out. "Joy," Depp said, his voice dropping to a low, measured tone that somehow felt more threatening than if he had shouted. "I've been nothing but respectful since I walked onto this stage. I came here as a guest, and you're treating me like I'm on trial. What exactly is your problem with me?" Joy leaned back in her chair with a satisfied expression. "My problem, Johnny, is that you represent everything that's wrong with Hollywood. The entitlement, the arrogance, the way men like you think you can do whatever you want without consequences. Men like me." Depp's eyebrows shot up. "And what kind of man do you think I am, Joy?" "The kind that destroys everything he touches," Joy replied without hesitation. "The kind that leaves a trail of broken people in his wake and then expects the world to feel sorry for him when it all comes crashing down." The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Some looked shocked, others seemed uncomfortable with the direction the interview had taken. But Joy Behar was just getting started. "I've done my research, Johnny," she continued, pulling out a folder thick with papers. "I know about the lawsuits, the allegations, the pattern of behavior that you somehow keep escaping accountability for, and I'm tired of watching you get standing ovations while real victims are silenced." Depp's composure was beginning to crack. His hands, usually so expressive and graceful, were now clenched into fists on the arms of his chair. "Joy, you're making some very serious implications here. I hope you have the evidence to back up what you're saying." "Oh, I have evidence." Joy smirked. "The question is, are you ready to face it?" Depp sat back in his chair, a cold smile spreading across his face. You know what, Joy? I think I am ready. But before you start reading from whatever tabloid clippings you've collected there, let me ask you something. What gives you the right to sit in judgment of me? Joy's eyes gleamed with malicious satisfaction. The right? I have the right as a journalist, as a woman, and as someone who cares about justice. Unlike some people in this industry who just look the other way. A journalist? Depp let out a bitter laugh. Is that what you call this? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks more like a public execution disguised as an interview. Whoopi finally found her voice. Okay, everyone, let's just take a breath here. No, Whoopi, Depp said firmly, his gaze never leaving Joy's face. Let her continue. I want to hear what this so-called journalist has to say. Please, Joy, enlighten us all with your evidence. Joy opened her folder with theatrical flair. Well, since you asked so nicely, let's start with the pattern of erratic behavior on movie sets. The tardiness, the substance abuse, the verbal abuse of crew. Members, should I go on? Please do, Depp said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. But while you're reading from your little gossip collection, maybe you should mention the hundreds of crew members who would disagree with you. The ones who have worked with me multiple times, who consider me a friend and colleague. Oh, you mean the ones who are too afraid to speak out because of your power and influence? Joy shot back. Or the ones who are paid to stay quiet? Depp's demeanor shifted dramatically. The playful sarcasm vanished, replaced by something much more intense. Joy, you just crossed a line. You're accusing me of intimidating and bribing people. That's not just unprofessional, it's potentially Lily's. Truth is a defense against Leal, Johnny, Joy replied smugly. And the truth is that you've been getting away with bad behavior for decades because people are too scared or too hysterical to call you out. The truth? Depp leaned forward, his eyes blazing. You want to talk about truth? The truth is that you don't know me. You don't know my story. You're sitting there with a folder full of gossip and speculation, pretending to be some kind of moral authority. When really, you're just a bitter talk show host who gets her kicks from tearing down people she doesn't understand. The studio was dead silent. Even the camera operators had stopped moving, afraid to miss a second of the confrontation unfolding before them. Joy's face flushed red. Bitter. Bitter. I'm not the one who spent years fighting lawsuits and losing movie roles because of my own actions. My own actions. Depp stood up abruptly, towering over the panel. Joy, you want to talk about actions? Let's talk about your actions. You invited me here under false pretenses. You ambushed me on live television. You're making accusations without evidence. And you're doing it all with a smile on your face like you're enjoying every minute of it. Sit down, Johnny, Joy commanded, but her voice wavered slightly. No, I don't think I will, Depp replied, his voice rising for the first time. I've sat quietly while you attacked my character, my integrity, and my livelihood. But I draw the line at you suggesting that I've intimidated or bribed people into silence. That's not just wrong, it's disgusting. Sarah Haynes tried to jump in. Maybe we should move on to talking about your new film. There is no new film discussion. Depp cut her off, his eyes still locked on Joy. This was never about promoting anything. This was about Joy Behar wanting to score points by attacking someone she sees as an easy target. Joy stood up as well, matching his intensity. Easy target. You think you're the victim here? What about all the real victims whose voices have been silenced by people like you? People like me. Depp's voice was now shaking with rage. You keep saying that. What exactly do you mean by people like me, Joy? Because I'm starting to think this isn't about my alleged behavior at all. I think this is about something else entirely. Don't you dare try to turn this around. Joy snarled. This is about accountability. This is about powerful men thinking they can do whatever they want without consequences. Accountability. Depp laughed harshly. From you? The woman who spent years making excuses for politicians and celebrities when it suited your political agenda. The woman who attacked victims when they didn't fit your narrative. You want to lecture me about accountability? Joy's face went pale. How dare you? No, how dare you? Depp interrupted, his voice now thunderous. How dare you sit there in your privileged position and attack someone based on gossip and speculation? How dare you claim to speak for victims while behaving like a bully yourself? Whoopi was frantically gesturing to the producers offstage, but the cameras kept rolling. This was television gold, and everyone knew it. You're out of line, Johnny. Joy tried to regain control, but her voice was shaking now. I'm out of line. Depp's laugh was cold and bitter. Joy, you haven't seen Out of Line yet. You want to play this game? Let's play it. Let's talk about your track record. Let's talk about all the times you've been wrong, all the people you've attacked unfairly. All the damage you've done with your reckless accusations. This isn't about me, Joy protested weakly. Oh, but it is, Depp replied, moving closer to the panel, because you made it about character assassination instead of facts. You made it personal instead of professional, and now you're going to have to live with the consequences of that choice. The tension in the studio had reached a breaking point. Security guards were positioned near the exits and producers were having heated discussions just off camera. But Johnny Depp wasn't finished yet. Depp took a deep breath, his voice becoming eerily calm despite the fire in his eyes. You know what, Joy? I came here today thinking I was going to have a civilized conversation with professional journalists. But what I found instead was someone so consumed with her own self-righteousness that she's forgotten what actual journalism looks like. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Depp held up his hand. No, you've had your turn. You've had your moment to grandstand and make your accusations. Now it's my turn to speak, and you're going to listen. The other co-hosts sat frozen in their chairs, unsure whether to intervene or let this unprecedented confrontation play out. Whoopi looked like she wanted to crawl under her desk, while Sarah and Sunny exchanged worried glances. You want to talk about patterns of behavior, Joy? Depp continued his voice, gaining strength. Let's examine your pattern. How many times have you sat in that chair and destroyed someone's reputation based on rumors and innuendo? How many lives have you damaged with your reckless need to be the moral arbiter of America? That's not what I do, Joy protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Depp's smile was razor-sharp. Let me refresh your memory. Remember when you spent weeks attacking that young actress who came forward with her story, only to have to quietly apologize months later when the truth came out? Remember when you destroyed that director's career based on a single anonymous source who turned out to be lying? Joy's face was now completely drained of color. Those were different situations. Were they? Depp interrupted. Or were they just examples of you deciding who deserves your protection and who deserves your wrath? Based on your own personal biases. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you pick your victims as carefully as you pick your heroes. The studio audience was completely captivated. Some were leaning forward in their seats. Others had their hands over their mouths in shock. The cameras captured every expression, every reaction to this unprecedented public confrontation. You talk about accountability, Joy, but when was the last time you were held accountable for the damage you've caused? Depp pressed on. When was the last time you had to face the consequences of your actions? I'm not the one on trial here, Joy said desperately, trying to regain control of the situation. No, you're not, Depp agreed, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more power than any shout. But maybe you should be. Maybe someone should examine your track record with the same ruthless scrutiny you apply to others. He began packing slowly in front of the panel like a lawyer delivering a closing argument. You sit there week after week, hiding behind this desk, protected by your position and your platform, and you destroy people. You ruin careers. You damage families. You spread poison disguised as moral outrage. That's not true, Joy whispered. But even she seemed to know how weak her denial sounded. Isn't it? Depp stopped packing and stared directly at her. Then explain to me why you chose today to ambush me. Explain why you decided that a promotional interview was the perfect opportunity to try to destroy my reputation. Was it because you thought I wouldn't fight back? Was it because you thought I'd just sit there and take it like all your other victims? Joy tried to stand taller to project authority, but she was visibly shaking now. I was doing my job. Your job? Depp's laugh was harsh and bitter. Your job is to inform and entertain, not to prosecute and condemn. Your job is to ask questions, not to deliver verdicts. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that, didn't you? You started believing your own press, started thinking you were some kind of crusader instead of just another talk show host. The silence in the studio was deafening. Even the technical crew had stopped moving, afraid to miss a single word of this extraordinary confrontation. Let me tell you something about real victims' Joy, Depp continued, his voice now filled with genuine emotion. Real victims don't need you to speak for them. Real victims need justice. They need support. They need healing. They don't need a talk show host using their pain as ammunition for her personal vendettas. I've always supported victims, Joy tried to argue, but her voice was barely audible. Have you Depp challenged, or have you only supported the victims who fit your narrative? Because I can think of plenty of victims you've ignored when their stories didn't serve your agenda. I can think of plenty of people you've attacked who turned out to be victims themselves. Joy seemed to shrink into her chair, the fight going out of her as Depp's words hit their mark. "You want to know what I think, Joy?" Depp said, leaning against the edge of the panel. "I think you've become so addicted to the rush of moral superiority that you've lost sight of what real justice looks like. I think you've confused destroying people with protecting people. And I think you've done it so many times that you don't even realize the damage you've caused." Whoopi finally found her voice. "Johnny, I think maybe we should." "No, Whoopi," Depp said firmly but respectfully. "I'm almost finished. But Joy needs to hear this, and your audience needs to hear this, too." He turned back to Joy, who was now staring at her hands. "You came after me today expecting an easy target. You thought you could bully me into submission, damage my reputation, and walk away feeling like you'd struck a blow for justice." His voice became deadly quiet. "But you made one crucial mistake, Joy. You assumed I was guilty of everything you accused me of. You didn't investigate, you didn't verify, you didn't even give me the courtesy of a fair question. You just attacked because that's what you do. That's who you've become." Joy looked up at him, tears forming in her eyes. "I was trying to do the right thing." "Were you?" Depp's voice was gentler now, almost pitying. "Or were you trying to boost your ratings? Were you trying to create a viral moment? Were you trying to prove how righteous and fearless you are by taking down a celebrity?" The question hung in the air like a sword. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. "The tragedy here, Joy," Depp continued, "is that you could have been a real journalist today. You could have asked thoughtful questions about my career, my craft, my projects. You could have had a meaningful conversation that actually informed your audience. Instead, you chose to turn this into a public execution based on gossip and speculation." He straightened up, adjusting his jacket with the same casual grace he displayed when he first walked onto the stage. "But here's the thing about trying to destroy someone without cause, Joy. Sometimes they fight back. Sometimes they refuse to be your victim. And sometimes they expose you for what you really are." The studio was so quiet that the hum of the air conditioning seemed loud. Joy sat motionless, looking smaller and more defeated than anyone had ever seen her on television. "I came here today in good faith," Depp said, addressing the audience now as much as Joy. "I came here to talk about art, about storytelling, about the craft I love. Instead, I found myself having to defend my very existence against someone who had already decided I was guilty of everything she could imagine." He walked back toward his chair, but didn't sit down. "This is what happens when we abandon fairness for ratings, when we choose sensationalism over journalism, when we decide that destroying people is more important than understanding them." Looking directly into the main camera, Depp's expression became serious and dignified. "To anyone watching this who has ever been the target of baseless accusations, who has ever been attacked without evidence, who has ever been judged without a fair hearing, I want you to know that you don't have to accept it. You don't have to sit quietly while someone destroys your reputation for their own gain." He turned. One last time to Joy, who was now openly crying. "And Joy, I hope someday you remember what it feels like to be on the receiving end of your own tactics. I hope you find your way back to actual journalism instead of whatever this was supposed to be." With that, Johnny Depp walked off the stage, leaving behind a stunned audience, a devastated host, and a moment of television that would be talked about for years to come. The cameras continued rolling as Joy Behar sat in her chair, the weight of her own actions finally catching up to her, while the other co-hosts struggled to figure out how to possibly continue with the show. What did you think of this incredible confrontation? Have you ever seen a celebrity fight back this powerfully against an unfair attack? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.